start with Derrick Henry, who dominated the Texans again. I mean, there is no workhorse like Derrick Henry. 32 rush attempts, over 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. And all he does, Jay, is crush the Houston Texans.
He does crush the Houston Texans. It's getting absurd now. 4 games, 200-plus yards against the Texans, the past 4. I think the thing with Henry is that it's just about his usage. And we see on screen now what he's done to Houston in the last 4 games, going 212-plus minimum. Each of those 4 with a minimum of 2 touchdowns in each game, minimum of 35 fantasy points as well. He just eats up that team. And if you look at this season specifically, 5 weeks in a row of 20-plus carries. He's just a lock for absurd usage because they don't have any wide receivers. They're not great in pass protection, but they're good at run blocking. Tannehill's never going to be a guy who drops back throws at 40 times. So, I mean, Derrick Henry, who right now is equal second with Christian McCaffrey in terms of fantasy points per game in PPR leagues, just behind Austin Eckler. I think you just have to project him as the best runner in the league going forward. Again, which is a surprise because before the season I was very concerned about Henry, but it's made me look very silly.
Yeah, Mike Vrabel had this to say: the difference between this team and the league is that we have Derrick Henry. It's as simple as that. With all that being said, Jay, would you make him the favorite to lead the NFL in rushing right now? I mean, this usage is, we know Derrick Henry is built for this, but we are back to square one where it's just Derrick Henry's getting the ball. You know it. We know it. Good luck stopping it.
Yeah, I think he should be the favorite going forward just because he's a lock for this kind of usage in ways that everyone else is not. I mean, Saquon Barkley, the first 3 series yesterday against the Seahawks, he got 1 carry. That's just never going to happen with Derrick Henry. He's just going to get the ball on first down, second down, and then they'll throw it on third if they have to, or they might just run him again. So I think he should be the favorite. He's 24 yards behind Saquon right now, but he's got the game in hand because the Titans have already had their bye. So I think he should be the favorite. Nick Chubb is obviously the other guy in that mix. Josh Jacobs maybe if the Raiders figure themselves out. But I think Henry should be the favorite.
We had quite a few backs with 3 touchdown performances yesterday, just lighting up the scoreboard. And that was not the case for Alvin Kamara for much of this season. It felt like Alvin Kamara was never getting into the end zone. He fell in 3 times. We said it, over 40 points, 27 touches. The Saints now have scored 24 points in 5 straight games. They shut out the Raiders yesterday, so a formula for Kamara to get even more work. Are you buying into the Saints offense with this hot stretch they're going through?
I kind of am. And Kamara, he's a big part of it. He looked more like Alvin Kamara than he has in 2 years. He looked like the guy who had 5 touchdowns against the Vikings on Christmas. That was the type of explosion that he was showing. And I do believe in this Saints team, weirdly. I'm off the Panthers. They broke my heart in the NFC South. My new NFC South team is the Saints.
You're going to go through all of them at this point.
Let's go through all of them. Yeah, Falcons. I will never go for the Bucs. But I do think the strange thing about the Saints is that coming into yesterday, Andy Dalton had the 3rd highest PFF grade of any quarterback in the league. The only 2 guys in front of him, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. So,
well, that's what they always say, Andy Dalton.
Yeah, Allen, Mahomes, who are you going to take? Well, it depends on the matchup. Yeah. Maybe you take Dalton. But I think that there is something there where he has played a lot better than expected. It's telling that even after those 2 pick sixes that they went back to him over Jameis. The O-line is solid. Olave is an elite talent. And Kamara is reaping the benefits of a better offense.
It feels like the Saints just got tired of having a potentially high-variance offense. I know that seems ridiculous to say when you look at Dalton throwing the 2 pick sixes in that game. But with Jameis, that's what it is, a high-variance offense. With Dalton, it feels like they understand how to get the ball in their playmakers' hands. Olave had a solid week, not a great week, but they consistently know how to run the offense with him back there, even if it's not always inspiring.
Yep, and the Saints are plus 450 to win the NFC South. They got the same record as the Bucs, a game behind of the Atlanta Falcons, who are somehow in sole possession of first place. So I like the Saints there. I think that should be more like plus 300.
Another 3-touchdown performer in an unconventional way, Christian McCaffrey. It has not taken much time for the 49ers to figure out how to use him. And let's hear what McCaffrey had to say after the game about his 3-touchdown day.
Both my little brothers are quarterbacks, so I learned a lot from them. But, I used to always want to play quarterback just because it was, the best position. But I've been a running back since I was 7. You got to get the elbow up, You got to get loose, get the elbow up, and it helps when someone's wide open as well.
McCaffrey, the first running back to have a receiving, rushing, and passing touchdown, as you heard him on that there, since LaDainian Tomlinson in 2005, Jay. I mean, obviously this isn't necessarily sustainable, but the biggest takeaway is and we said this when the trade happened, if you can hand pick a place for McCaffrey to go and be what everybody expects when they draft him top 2 in fantasy every year, it would be with Kyle Shanahan.
Let's talk about the throw. The throw was amazing. It should have been, if the Niners had Christian McCaffrey throwing that deep ball to Emmanuel Sanders in the Super Bowl in the late fourth quarter, they'd be Super Bowl champions. It was a better throw than I've seen Jimmy Garoppolo make in years. Look, I think McCaffrey, he's everything as advertised. I think you probably project him as the best running back in fantasy going forward just because of the versatility of that offense and the usage that he's getting. I mean, there was a time yesterday, Connor, when the Rams were up 14-7 and they were favorite live in that game at that point, and the Niners were teetering. It's like, are they going to be 3-5? Are they going to be traded for McCaffrey for nothing? And then they just turn it on. McCaffrey makes that touch fittingly to give them the lead, where he looks like Cooper Kupp going up for that ball in the end zone. So, I mean, there's not much to say. He's just a monster. It's fitting that, we're making stat comparisons to LaDainian Tomlinson because, he is an elite player and elite fantasy player.
And that's not where the bizarre McCaffrey day ended. He had more fantasy points across the board than a lot of different guys, as you see here from Mason. As a passer, CMC outscored Derek Carr. As a rusher, CMC outscored Jonathan Taylor. As a receiver, CMC outscored Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, that's not too bad. And also, I just think with that Niners defense as well, it's all clicking into place for them. They're looking like a force in the NFC.
They really are. I mean, we talked about earlier, the Niners, they start off slow. Now they potentially have a defensive player of the year in Nick Bosa, who got his 8th sack yesterday. You have CMC on the other side of the ball. This was without Deebo Samuel, who was one of the best players in the NFL last year and has looked fine this year. When you factor all that in, Jay, where are you with this Niners team? Because the NFC, besides the Eagles, has been this giant toss-up.
Yeah, to me, the NFC right now is 3 teams. I think the Eagles should be favorite just because they've got such a clear path to the bye, which is so significant. But then after them, I think it's the Niners and the Cowboys. Those are the teams with real upside just because of their defenses, because of the skill position weapons that they have. Dak looked a lot better yesterday than he did against the Lions. So those are the 2 teams I'm most interested in, but the Eagles still should be the favorite.
Speaking of those Cowboys, Tony Pollard had himself a day with Ezekiel Elliott sidelined with a knee injury, another 3-touchdown scorer. But Jerry Jones, after the game, maybe not convinced.
I don't know. No, there's no argument. Zeke's ability to punish, Zeke's ability to deliver it, Zeke's ability to what he does for us in pass protection, and frankly, Zeke's ability to make big plays are there, and we're going to go as Zeke goes. I really mean he's that integral to our success this year.
As we know, every day is Halloween for Jerry Jones. When Dak gets hurt, he gets to be a doctor. When Tony Pollard goes off, he gets to be the coach and say that Zeke's coming back. And right around the draft, he loves to be a scout.
That's good. That's good material there, Connor. I like that.
I'm working on my stand-up. Too scared to go on stage.
Yeah. I think, that fills you a lot of confidence as a Cowboys fan, doesn't it? It's, look, he's not the coach, but I do think that Zeke will continue to get fed. Maybe it'll be closer to 50-50 after what Pollard showed, but at the same time, you would definitely make Zeke the favorite to get more work, which I don't think is correct, and I don't think there's any argument that that's correct. Yes, if Pollard, the whole thing with Tony Pollard has been that his body can't hold up to a workhorse load. That's fine. Don't give him a workhorse load. Just give him 60% of the carries.
And do we
instead
think
of
that's
25.
true, by the way?
I don't think it's true either.
That seems like something that just came out of thin air that everybody says because of, honestly, his aesthetic.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, he's not.
If he wore a neck roll and a visor, everybody would be like, Tony Pollard needs 45 carries every week.
Exactly. And also, can we prove it wrong first? Can we see that can he not deliver when he gets a big workload? Because that's the thing at the moment is that whenever he does get the chance, he just takes it. He's the 3rd best running back in the league by PFF grade. The eye test matches up with that. He's just a freak. So I do think the Cowboys are limiting themselves. And fantasy-wise, it just makes it a nightmare. I mean, I think both of these guys are probably startable. Pollard probably, or both of them really as flex guys going forward. But yeah, I think the Cowboys would be much better served giving Pollard more piece of the pie.
Yeah, I feel like it's tough to sell high on Tony Pollard because I think everybody is in tune with that Ezekiel Elliott is always a factor here, no matter how good Tony looks. I mean, Pollard has 2 career games without Ezekiel Elliott, 279 yards, 5 total touchdowns. Yeah, we know what he is. Now, the one thing you have to, and I'll throw this to you, Jay, do you project in that knee injuries that aren't season-ending often do linger and you can get sore, you could be limited, you could miss time? Jerry Jones is not the coach of this team. The coaching staff and the medical staff is dealing with Ezekiel Elliott that maybe you do hold on to Tony Pollard, because if Zeke misses more time, this is a guy that can win you a league.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, even if Zeke doesn't miss that much more time, like he might just be limited, he might be banged up, maybe they just reduce his workload, could be a blessing in disguise for the Cowboys and their offense, honestly, that, this injury does give them an excuse politically to be able to give more of the offense to Tony Pollard. So, look, I think it's really hard to sell high on Tony Pollard because everyone knows that Zeke is coming back. No one's expecting this as the baseline. So I think you're probably better off just holding on to him and hoping that he takes more control of the offense.
We started this segment with household names. Derrick Henry, superstar in fantasy. Alvin Kamara, of course, as well. Christian McCaffrey, we know all about him. Tony Pollard's been a very popular name. D'Onta Foreman,
yes,
from the Panthers. I think the question was, as soon as McCaffrey got traded, it was, who do you pick up? And are there any expectations this team's going to be bad? Is it Chuba Hubbard? Is it Foreman? Obviously, Chuba Hubbard missed this game, which led to a high usage for Foreman with 26 rush attempts, 3 touchdowns. But I don't think the question, Jay, is can he keep this up? Because that's not fair. But can he be a reliable RB2 down the stretch? It's starting to lean that way.
I think it's more a question, can he be an RB1?
Yeah.
I think he is an RB2 at this point. 118 yards in back-to-back games. He's just must start until proven otherwise. And I think the best thing for D'Onta Foreman is that PJ Walker looks like a real quarterback at the moment. I know he didn't have a great completion percentage, but he's moving the chains. He's moving the offense in a way that it was so hopeless with Baker Mayfield that he gives this offense more of a ceiling. There's more running room with the spacing that PJ Walker is providing. So, and with the Panthers, I think they're like a 7-10 level quality team going forward, not the disaster 4-13 win team that you project them as a couple of weeks ago. So, yeah, I think D'Onta Foreman is going to be relevant the rest of the year.
That's a big difference. This was a team that when Matt Rule was fired, everybody wrote in at least pencil, sometimes ink, to be picking in the top 2. They're going to get their quarterback. They're going to stink the rest of the year. And when you're bad and playing from behind, you're not going to run the ball. But that's been the opposite with PJ Walker in there. All right, back to a team that we know is really, really good. The Philadelphia Eagles look unstoppable at this point. Not a surprise. The Steelers' defense, especially without T.J. Watt, just couldn't put up a fight against this team. A.J. Brown, him and Jalen Hurts right now are in sync, unlike most quarterback wide receiver connections in the NFL. Do you think this is how it's just going to be the entire year at this point?
I think so. And I think it's a shame in a way that we don't get to see A.J. Brown on a team like Minnesota or Miami in place of Tyreek Hill and just see him be the number one guy in a passing offense, because obviously he was on Derrick Henry's team. Now he's on an Eagles team that is a bit more progressive with the pass, but they're still a running team. They still want to run the ball. And I think that A.J. Brown, he might be on the same level talent-wise as Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs. He just doesn't get the volume. Obviously, he got the volume on Sunday, and I think the Eagles, with their schedule, which is a complete farce, I think he's going to continue to be in situations where he can light up other bad teams. We were talking before the show, Connor, about we might not find out if the Eagles are legitimately good until the Super Bowl when they play the Bills or the Chiefs.
Maybe NFC Championship game if we're lucky.
Yeah, maybe if they get the Niners or Cowboys. Now, they do play at Cowboys in Week 16, but outside of that, they're going to be clear favorites in every single game the rest of the season. Fittingly, their next game is at the Texans. It feels like they play at the Texans or at the Commanders every single week. But yeah, look, they're a juggernaut. They're very, very good. When I talk about them being legitimately good, it's just, are they in the same class as Buffalo or are they a tier down?
Man, it's just absolutely crazy when you look at that schedule. And I think that makes you wonder with Jalen Hurts, he's on cruise control. 4 touchdowns yesterday, almost 30 fantasy points. Like you said, the usage of A.J. Brown, who led the team in targets with 10, was at an all-time high. When you're on a team that's going to win 15 games?
Yeah.
I mean, we're sitting here after Week 8 and setting comfortably. They're going to win 14, 15 games. Is Jalen Hurts on the path to win the MVP at this point?
I mean, if you just look at the team's record and his stats and the remaining schedule, you'd say he's definitely in the mix. I would still make Josh Allen the favorite, and he is the favorite on BetMGM. I just think that when it comes down to it, everyone knows that Josh Allen is better than Jalen Hurts, right? Everyone knows that. There's no one taking Jalen Hurts over Josh Allen, and I do think that voters will have a real tough time being like, no, I'm going to give it to Jalen Hurts, because the Eagles went 16-1 and the Bills went 14-3. I just think at the end of the day that it just feels like Josh Allen's season. It feels like Buffalo's season, and that he will get it in the end. But Jalen Hurts is certainly making a case.
And the Bills never stop throwing the ball. It doesn't matter the game script, the game flow, the score of the game. They never stop throwing the ball.
No.
I think there's some desire to get him that MVP.
I think so too. The only thing with the one concern with Allen is that his numbers fall off every year when it gets colder in Buffalo, as you would expect. So he might not, he's not going to throw for 6,000 yards or whatever, which looked like it might be in play a couple of weeks ago. So his counting stats might fall off, but that team's a juggernaut. They're the best team in the NFL, and I think he'll be the MVP.
The running backs that we started the show with have become the no-brainers. You play them, you love having them, enjoy, reap the benefits. There's some headache backfields, though. And one that I think if we had this conversation in July, people would look at you like you're insane. The Detroit Lions. Everybody would say DeAndre Swift is the guy. Jamal Williams, they might get cute, even at the goal line. He's a great pass-protecting running back. Things have changed, Jay. I mean, DeAndre Swift got hurt, which that happens. But now he's back and maybe still banged up. Jamal Williams is still a huge factor here. I guess the question is, can this backfield carry these two? Because they are getting their points, but Jamal Williams is getting the bulk of the touchdown work.
Yeah, I think, DeAndre Swift will be fine. I still think he's going to be the featured back once he's healthier. And it's his first game back and he only had 5 carries. That's not great, but let's give it one more week with DeAndre Swift, one more week off the injury to see how he does. But I do think that the interesting thing is that Jamal Williams might be startable each week anyway, even if DeAndre Swift does take control of the backfield, just because he is getting carries at the goal line. And this Detroit offense, yes, they put up a goose egg in New England, but now they're healthier. Amon-Ra St. Brown back, DeAndre Swift back. I do think this is going to be a very fantasy-friendly offense that could support 2 running backs.
Staying in the division, but moving over to a different backfield that's gotten a little bit more interesting recently. It was not the way the first couple weeks. The Chicago Bears, David Montgomery, Khalil Herbert, who it always feels like Herbert has a little bit of that Tony Pollard effect where when he gets a few touches and has the big play, everybody's, including myself, I know I'm guilty of it, sit there and scream, more Khalil Herbert, more Khalil Herbert. And it felt like as long as Montgomery plays, that was never going to happen. But yesterday, we're starting to see that slowly unfold where this is a team that does want Khalil Herbert to at least be getting 50% of those carries.
Yeah, and I think that I would rather have Herbert going forward the rest of the way, even if the average outcome is that David Montgomery is slightly better than Khalil Herbert on average, just the upside of Herbert, who can have weeks where he is an RB1 or a high-end RB2. I just think that you have that upside in Herbert that you don't get with Montgomery. Promisingly, it looks like it's shifting that way. And look, the Bears offense overall, 29 points against Dallas, vaunted Dallas defense, after 33 points against a pretty solid New England defense too. I mean, things are trending in the right direction. And I want to ask you about Justin Fields, who looked phenomenal against Dallas, as he did against the Patriots. I mean, phenomenal. He looked very good.
Yeah.
Would you rather have Justin Fields as an NFL team going forward or Trevor Lawrence?
It's a great question. I think what I love about Fields and what I love about a lot of quarterbacks that have this kind of running ability, running, if you have the right staff, and it took this staff a while to figure this out, running can buy you time to develop as a passer in this league. It gives you more time to figure things out. It stresses the defense. It makes the linebackers cheat up, and maybe even the safeties cheat up, and it opens the rest of the field. And we saw that for years with Lamar Jackson, who developed in a great way as a passer while using his legs to do that. We saw it with Jalen Hurts. Both those guys used that time as runners to develop into passers, and you can make that argument for Justin Fields right now. I still think Trevor Lawrence was a special talent, and I would still, to answer the question, I would still take Trevor Lawrence because I think he's just always going to be a more gifted thrower. But the head-scratching mistakes with all of these quarterbacks, him, Zach Wilson, Fields has figured it out lately, he needs to get a longer stretch, but Mac Jones, that's the big thing that they need to evade. And once again, I can't say it enough, running buys you out of those mistakes. When you look at Fields, he has 60-plus rushing yards in 3 straight games. I watched back yesterday's game. 5 of the 8 rush attempts that he had were designed runs.
Yep.
And they're in the red zone, which, Jay, when you hear that, does his rushing upside make him a top 10 fantasy quarterback the rest of the season now?
I think so. Or at least he's very much in that mix. Last week I said I'd rather have Brady over Fields the rest of the way. Not anymore. I'd rather have Fields. After now we've got another week of this sample of him really producing. And it is obviously it's the rushing, but he's even looking better as a passer now. And, to your point about the league and the way it's going, to me, the most interesting thing in the NFL right now is that teams are playing 2 high safety more than ever before. They're playing quarters more than ever before. There's there's never been a more efficient time in NFL history to run the ball than right now, where rushing efficiency is starting to match passing efficiency. That's why you're not seeing these deep plays as much, just because teams are taking that away. And so Fields' rushing element there just makes him all the more special. And fantasy-wise, yeah, I think he is a top 10 quarterback.
I'm with you all the way. Top 12 finish the last 4 weeks, and like you said, the trajectory is showing him getting better. And I think, most importantly, a play caller that is finally maximizing his strength, something he never had last year and something he didn't have the first couple of weeks of this year. So a good trend for Justin Fields. We are going to take a break, but when we are back, Lawrence Jackson from Rotoworld is joining us for some Sunday scaries in the tradition of Halloween.